अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी ट्रस्ट अभाव फाउंडेशन की ओर से मैं घनश्याम तिवारी, फाउंडर प्रेसिडेंट, आप सभी का स्वागत करता हूँ। सबसे पहले आप सभी को आज बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट दिन है। आज 12 जनवरी है, स्वामी विवेकानंद जी की जयंती है। विवेकानंद जी की जयंती को हम सभी जो है नेशनल यूथ डे के रूप में मनाते हैं, तो इसकी आपको सबको शुभकामनाएं। और उन्हीं के एक वाक्य को लेके मैं आप सबको उठो जागो और तब तक नहीं रुको जब तक लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति ना हो। अब आगे बढ़ेंगे आज की हमारी वेबिनार के बारे में। मूविंग ऑन फॉर टुडेज 147th one day webinar on scaling the third religion. We have with us our guest speaker, sir, Mr. Atal Bihari sir, former CEO, National Skill Development Corporation. Sir, I welcome you on behalf of ABHAV Foundation and all the participants here. I request our guest speaker, sir, please start the session. Welcome, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I'm so glad that Atal Bihari Vajpayee's Trust has organized this webinar, knowledge sharing webinar, which they do literally every day. And I'm glad to be chosen as one of the speakers. So thank you very much to everybody in the Trust. And thank you, audience, for taking time out to be here. The topic for today is killing the third religion. And what could be more auspicious than the National Youth Day? Because this is something directly focused at the youth of India. And I will just explain why am I calling it a religion. For me, a religion is an organized collection of beliefs, cultural systems, and worldviews that relate humanity to an order of existence. Now, this is really the core of being a religion. And why so? Now, let me talk about the first religion that's there in India, which is cricket. It is our first religion. Why? Just imagine, yesterday itself, the Indian team put up a heroic draw against Australia, and how it enthralled all of us. For that moment, in fact, for the whole day, we were all glued together as Indians, as one. There was no question of who's a Muslim or Sikh, Isai, Hindu, who was upper caste, lower caste, northerner, southerner, nothing. It was all of us together, Indians. And that's our first religion, cricket. It brings us together. Our second religion is Bollywood. Again, when a Bollywood movie is released, or the Bollywood heroes, some of them are demigods for us. And we respect the kind of movies that we make. And it brings us again together. It gives us the time to go with the family, watch a movie. Forget what is happening in the COVID times, but in the pre-COVID times, we look forward to new movies being released because it just creates that bonhomie amongst us. We forget at that time what all other religions are there in India. So in the same respect as the first and the second religion, skilling is the third religion. And why so, I will tell you. First of all, Swami Vivekanand ji, I think he was a youth icon. He may not be with us at the moment, but his spirit lives way past. And that arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached is such a precious pearl of wisdom, which is applicable to us even now, as it was maybe 100 years back. And what is the goal that we need to achieve? It's to make India the skill capital of the world. And that's what I want to leave that message with the youth today. Make India the skill capital of the world. India is a superpower, or can be a superpower. Why? Well, you may have heard this word of demographic dividend. Now, what is demographic dividend? A simple one-word answer is the youth, that is you all those who are watching. For them, demographic dividend means they themselves. And why so again? Because India is one of the youngest countries in the world and one of the most populous countries in the world. So 65% of our people are less than 35 years of age. Our average age is less than 29 years. China is at 38, Europe is at 45, Japan is at 48 years. So India has this demographic dividend, which can be realized by being skilled. And why am I emphasizing skills? Because in case we do not get the skills that we are relevant for the day and for the future, then there will be demonstrations and protests and break-ins and robbery. And the same colorful picture that you see on your left of your screen becomes a black and white, and all the color is vanished. The rupee symbol becomes a sickle symbol, one which is out to destroy. That looks like a protest on the right-hand side. So it is up to us now, whether we want to create a demographic dividend or make it a disaster. Now, along with us, there's a parental mindset which needs to change. The parental mindset is still, beta, graduation kar le, शादी हो जाएगी, तुझे job मिल जाएगा. That has been heard from us or from all people all the time. Everything is so oriented to getting that paper degree called a graduate degree. Why can't we do without one? So today's presentation is focused on how we can find an alternate way to the education's front and create skill development as our career. Now, if you look at our current education, it's all about theory being taught to get marks or marks to crack the exams. There's very little focus on soft skills, very little focus on core skills. The mantra I want to leave you with is learn a skill, earn, learn more, earn more. And do your graduation on the side. Look, education and learning should never stop in life. That's what Swami Vivekanand also said in a different way. But it's important to learn a skill to be able to earn and get onto your feet. Learn more and earn more, start running. And then start sprinting. And then get your entire educational degrees that you aim for. But first, be on your feet. And that's where skill development comes in, very important. Now, today's world is a VUCA world. You may have heard this word even before the COVID era struck us. And COVID era has really proven this VUCA world having come alive. It's volatile, it's uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Volatile is so unpredictable as of today, or even 6 months back. We weren't able to know what's going to happen the next day and the day after and the week after and the month after. Uncertain because we still do not have a handle on all the things that are possibly going wrong. Complex is all interconnected world. Imagine one virus that you can't see started in Wuhan and enveloped the whole world. The 90 million people have been affected by COVID, and the number is still growing. Ambiguous, because we're still trying to resolve the ambiguity, the kind of uncertainty, what this virus is all about. How will the economics of a country change? What will happen and when will it happen? When will things go right? We are getting a handle on things. It's nothing to be getting pessimistic about. But this is what the VUCA world, and we need to be ready for this VUCA world. And that's where skills that we require for this VUCA world is what I'm going to outline. Now, what are the skills for a VUCA world? So there are the number of things that we talk about, like critical thinking, analytics, emotional intelligence, and all. Let me just take an example of each of them from my own life. So critical thinking and analytics. You've heard about data analytics and all kinds of analytics being done in various shapes and forms. You have to be a foodie for data. Like the way you enjoy your chola bhaturas and gulab jamuns and the taste that leaves in your mouth and you are hungry for more, that's the way you have to be hungry for data. Data is the new oil, and you have to appreciate that data. So in a bank, and my career has been in banking for 22 years, I started with something called fraud control way back in 1990 for credit cards. I didn't know what credit card fraud meant about at that time. But if by looking at data, I was able to decipher what's a good chance that a particular transaction is a fraudulent one. This is way back in 1990. Things have changed since then, and lots of technology has come in. So you have to be prepared for using that data, and it's not only fraud control, you can also use for marketing. You've heard about how Facebook and Google are able to use data to offer you or to incite you, entice you to buy things from them. Emotional intelligence. Now this is again, in this current world, meditation and your self-control becomes very important. You can either become aggressive or you can become depressive. But how do you choose that middle path? That's where meditation comes out very important. I'm a great fan of Sudarshan Kriya, which is given by Art of Living, Shri Guruji Ravi Shankarji. I found it a big plus to manage stress all during my corporate career. Cross-cultural thinking. Don't choose the easy path. Don't think about if I've got a job in an Indian organization which has got offices all over India or maybe abroad or in MNC, that I should choose the office which is nearest to my house. It may have only a few people and it might be a local office. Go regional. When you go to a regional office, you learn much more by interacting with people from various caste, creed, and culture, with different kind of languages. When I was in the Middle East, in HSBC in Dubai, my team had 25 different nationalities. They spoke 48 different kind of languages. Such a varied set of people. You learn a lot from them. And that's what you should be ready for. Computational thinking. So how about turning English language into some mathematical differences? I mean, how do you make inferences from mathematics using data that has been given in an application form? Credit scoring is one such tool. So when you apply for a credit card or you apply for a loan, the data, the English data that you provide in your application form actually gets converted to mathematical data and comes out with a score, and that's a credit score. And that actually determines whether you need to get a card or a loan or no. Then new media literacy. Now I can't emphasize on this more. Social media marketing is the new norm in the cyber world. Now, I have a marketing degree from IIM Calcutta. But very frankly, that degree is of no use in the current day because I was taught marketing in the physical world. There was no social media marketing at that time. And I'm having to learn all of it now. So it doesn't matter what age you are in. If the things are changing fast, you need to adapt to the change. And I'm trying to adapt to the change. I'm also getting, let's say, competence in handling Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and whatever other new tools are there. Transdisciplinary. It's no longer an MBA world that you do an MBA and learn everything. You have to make a decision of whether you want to be a master of something or you want to be a generalist of everything. Design mindset. That's where creativity comes in. How do you create value for your employer? When I say value, means something that the employer can appreciate you for, can turn into a goods or a service, something that will earn more revenue to the company. And that's where your creative thinking comes out in terms of creating value for your employer. Virtual collaboration. This is what we're doing today, at this moment. We're talking virtually to a very large mass of people. Imagine trying to bring you all together under one roof. and the amount of time and effort and cost just to bring people under one roof. But here we are sitting in our home, maybe traveling in a cab or out in office, maybe out enjoying the sun and listening to a knowledge sharing session. Same way, you can be a collaborator of teams. You can manage virtual teams, and tomorrow your teams will not only be humans, where there will be robots. So there will be part work that will be done by robots, like data entry, or like some kind of data analysis. And then you may have to come in and look at the data analysis done by a robot and take decisions. So your team will have robots and it will have humans. So that's a new skill you have to come up with. So these are the skills of a VUCA world. Now, this is a report that came out from the World Economic Forum in 2018. Some bit of it is changing, but I thought since this was a published report, a well-researched report, I'd bring out some of the salient features from there. So what is trending towards 2022? We are already 2021. And what is declining? So let's look at the declining part. I have told you what is trending because in the previous slide, I just told you all the skills required for a VUCA world. But what is declining? That is where you should not feel complacent. Okay, look, I'm doing this job for the last 5 years or 10 years, and I'm happy with it. Anything that requires management of personnel, technology installation, maintenance, memory, verbal, auditory, spatial abilities. So when memory is here, that means no longer is it required to be able to remember all the kind of things that we require for cracking an exam, the dates and the, what is the difference between one thing to the other, all the kind of multiple question analysis, multiple answers that we get, MCQs. We don't need to memorize. We now need to understand, apply. And that's what the skills that I was just telling you about a little while earlier. Quality control and safety and awareness, all this is going to be done by computers. So none of these things that are there in the declining terms, you should be thinking of upskilling or reskilling yourself. If you are in such a field, start looking at ways by which you can upskill yourself. Now, let me just tell you about the Skill Development National Skills Qualification Framework, which was developed by NSDC. Why was it done and what does it mean? So on the academic level, when somebody says I'm 10th pass, 12th pass, undergraduate, graduate, PhD, immediately in your mind a ladder forms. Okay, look, a PhD is above a master's, master's above a bachelor's, etc. But on the skill level, you have no way to find out how much of skilling has happened. So that is one problem that India was facing. And one case, an example I'd like to quote. Like in the 80s, 1980s, I think many of you may not have been born at the time, but one couldn't remember of any product that was being produced by South Korea. And today, that country has a product either in your pocket or at home or with a relative of yours. Now, why did that transformation happen in South Korea? Because 95% of South Koreans are certified skilled. The emphasis on certification. Certified skill. In India, that percentage is less than 5. It's not that Indians are not skilled, they are. Otherwise, the country would be in shambles. But our skills are not certified. Now, in US, it's nearly 68% are certified skills. Japan is in the 70s, 74, 75%. Germany is around 82%. These are highly skilled nations, certified skilled nations. Now, what does this skill ladder mean, 1 to 10, as you might see on your screen here? So let me take an example from the construction industry. Now, a person who's let's say, working on a project site, some building is coming up. And there is this laborer who is fetching bricks from a truck and bringing it to the site where the building is being made. So he takes a tasla on his head, puts some bricks on top, and balances it somewhat. You have to be minimally skilled, otherwise the bricks might fall off, you might get hurt. So he balances that and brings it to the project site, goes to the truck, puts more put more bricks and comes back. So minimally skilled. So that's level 1. Now level 2 and level 3 are the, let's say, the helpers who help a mason. What does the mason do? He's putting the cement and putting the bricks in place, making sure that the things are coming up right. And these are the people who are mixing his cement, pouring water, holding the plumb line, and helping him in building up a wall or any other such thing. So they are level 2 and level 3. After seeing him do the work over a period of time, just by watching and just by doing some bits of work, they become skilled. Now the skilled worker is actually the mason. And very frankly, the mason is more skilled than even I am in his particular field. Why so? Because he's the one who knows if the walls are coming at right angles to each. If you're making a room, all the 4 walls are coming up in such a way that none of the walls can fall. They are meeting at right angles. They're nicely cemented. The bricks are perfectly placed. They won't fall. All of that skill is with the mason. So the mason is a skilled person. We need to certify him. That's a different thing. And that's what we want to do. Now, then there's a supervisor of a project site. He's taking care of whether the mason and the electrician and the plumber and the cement and all the other things are all going on right, so that there's no absenteeism, there's no conflict, there's nobody falling ill, all of it. So he's a supervisor for that site. Level 6 is the supervisor. He is the one who takes out his motorcycle in the morning. There are 5 project sites where the company is doing work. Let's say DLF has got these multiple sites where different buildings are coming up. So he goes from one to the other to the third, and then he sees, look, if there is some shortage happening from somewhere, if the labor is absented somewhere, you can move from one place to the other. So he's generally supervising the supervisors, asking them what is ailing them. Level 7 is the manager. The manager of supervisors is the person who's sitting somewhere in the head office or maybe the regional office and saying these 5 project sites are working okay or not. There's a project plan he has. He wants to see whether there's any project overrun. Is anything getting delayed? He's in charge of literally creating a PowerPoint project plan or whatever to see if things are going on right or not. Then level 8 is a junior manager. He has got some bit of, let's say, money authority by which he can allocate budget from one to the other and make sure that everything goes right. And then the senior manager and finally the head of the company. So you can see how the skill levels have changed from basic core skills to more soft skills and then perfection in the soft skills. So this is what the skill development is all about. Now, some of these things that are being doing in skills may not require a graduation degree, may not require a degree at all. So for being a mason, you don't have to become 10th pass or 12th pass or even a graduate for that matter. But this is about a mason. We are not talking of masons alone. We are not saying we are only talking of the blue-collar workers. But when a graduate comes out from, let's say, a 3rd year of graduation, very frankly, the person is minimally skilled. So he's level 1 on the skill development scale. But once he's trained in supervisor skills, etc., then because of his education, he learns fast and he jumps over to level 4 and level 5 and 6. Now that is where the Indian education system is right now lacking, and the industry has made a lot of noise about it. The people they're getting from the schools and colleges are not skilled enough. And that's how this NSQF came up. You look, if people do not want to complete their school or college or may not be able to complete their school or college because of circumstances, they can take up a skill development course for a particular trade which the industry wants. So let's talk about some of those. We are not going to talk about only the blue-collar workers. Let's talk about the higher level now. This is the cyber security. Very important in the current day and age. All kinds of cyber attacks are being heard of. We talk about data privacy, we talk about data breaches, all kinds of things. Now, this is what, let's say, a career map of a cybersecurity person would look like. So at level 6, it starts at level 6. You can see where my cursor is moving on the left of the screen. To level 7, to level 8, level 9, level 10. Now, how do I get these? So suppose, let's say, consultant. He's at level 8. Most of you might aspire to become that. And there are various, all of these are different job roles. So consultant is a job role, analyst is a job role, analyst application security is a job role, network security management is a job role. So these are various job roles. I'll try and explain one, which is consultant, as an example. Now, this is a qualification pack. Now, all of this, I'm giving you some jargon here to understand so that you don't get stuck. What does it mean? And if you go to the NSDC website, which is nsdcindia.org, you will find 3,500 job roles there. So amongst them, you will find this one also. Qualification pack or the National Occupation Standards. Now, why is all this jargon being tossed around? So that if you get taught, whether in Srinagar or in Coimbatore or in Assam, you're taught the same curriculum. So when you come out after having done this skill development, you come up with the same set of standards and competencies. Now, whether you want to take up a job in that area or some other area is entirely up to you and your family circumstances. But you are employable. Whether you get employment or not is also a function of your own personality, your own wants, your own requirements, and your circumstances. So this is what NOS and QP mean. QP is Qualification Pact, NOS means National Occupation Standards. Why are they important? Because these National Occupation Standards are something that even a country abroad would look at. So they also want to know what are the competencies you've got. Now these are the competencies that you can get. So this is like, role description. What does consultant network security mean? Is responsible for providing network security solutions, as well as reviewing secure configuration and minimum baseline security standards, maintaining compliance to network security policy and regulations, and driving the project. So this is what the role description is. What are the kind of standards they have to come up with? You can provide network security recommendations, the ones in blue, if you can see downstairs. Carry out configuration review, test, run, and exploit, identify vulnerabilities, manage your work requirements, manage a project team. So let's talk about manage a project team, which is here, number 6, manage a procurement. I'm outlining with my cursor here. Manage a project team. What does a manager project team mean? How do I develop this manager project team? So what are the core and generic skills for managing a project team? So there are writing skills, there are reading skills, and oral communication. So in writing skills, what? Call logs, reports, task lists, work updates, status and progress reports. What's very important is without English language errors regarding grammar or sentence construct and following professional etiquettes. This is very important. People tend to miss this out and say, why, fine, thoda English mein problem ho gaya. No, this is a competency you want to have. And this is not about cybersecurity, is all about using only IT skills, but how you explain your IT skills to others. So you have to be important with your language. Reading skills. Now, what does reading skills mean? Not about books. It's about the new products and services. You apply that reading skills for latest knowledge by reading brochures, pamphlets, and product information sheets. Read emails from your own team, across team, and external vendors. All of this requires reading skills. Oral communication, listening and speaking skills. Now, this is again is very important people tend to miss out. They feel, okay, I'm in IT, I'm in back-end process operations, so I don't need to speak to many people. My own team is fine. But no, you have to give clear instructions to specialists. You keep stakeholders informed. What are stakeholders? Your managers, your people around you, your vendors, your customers, all they are stakeholders. Avoid using jargon and slang. That is important when you're explaining something. I'm trying to reduce the amount of jargon on NOS and QP and trying to explain here. I hope it makes a difference in your own understanding. Now, professional skills. What are the professional skills? Decision making, planning, customer centricity, analytical thinking, critical thinking. I'd focus on the customer centricity. What does customer centricity mean? You have to be very clear who your customer is at any point in time. No matter which job you take, whichever part of the world you take, whether India or even in your local environment, there's always a customer. And very frankly, your salary is to be paid by the customer. Imagine if there were no customers at all. Who is going to pay your salary? The company has to earn money, and the money can only come when you have customers. Only then can the money make a profit and make payments to you. So at any point in time, and I'm from a banking industry, right from day one when I entered the bank, I was told the importance of a customer. Keep thinking customer. What can I do for the customer? Many people think in terms of, oh, if there's a complaint, I will lose my job. But very frankly, in my life, I have seen in banking, if I can make a customer's complaint into a compliment, that customer sticks with the bank all through his life or her life. So customer centricity is very important. Whatever products you make, whatever literature you write in terms of brochures and customer communication, everything has to be directed to the customer. And it does not matter whether you're in IT, you're in sales, or you're in marketing, or you're in operations, or you're in admin, any which way, you have to deal with some customer. Whether it's an internal customer, your colleagues, your bosses, or an external customer out on the market. So this is where it all starts, customer centricity. And I have already covered analytical thinking and critical thinking, so I'm not going to repeat that again. And one final piece of advice. Don't think about what you want to be. Think about the skills you'll need to know and how you'll learn them. I'll just give you an example of my own life. I started off as an engineer. I worked 2 years on the shop floor at Tata Motors. I had an engineering degree from IIT Kanpur. So I can be called a mechanical engineer. I could have stuck with that in mind, I'm a mechanical engineer. I have to be an engineer. Then I went to IIM Calcutta and joined banking. Again, I would be thinking either I'm spoiling my engineering degree or what am I going to do in a bank? I don't know about debits, credits at that time. I'm not a commerce student. What will happen? But each point in my life, I did not get stuck to the degree of engineering or the degree of an MBA. I always looked at what skills can I acquire. In an engineering job, it was about problem-solving skills. It was about analytical skills, about creativity. It's about applying your education to make some new product or a service. When I went into a bank, I talked about customer. What is the customer? How does the banking customer behave? What does the banking customer look for? How do I place myself in the shoes of a customer and make his or her life better? How can I provide financial services to a customer so that he or she may be able to raise his own lifestyle? So it was all about different kinds of skills. It was not about debit and credit. It was not about commerce. It was not about being a banker. And I did not get stuck to being either a banker or as an engineer. Sometime back when I was working with the NSTC as a skill development person, Again, I did not just think in terms of, I am there only to create skill development ecosystem. It was about how do I get the best from people around me. So it was a collaborative effort. I could not decide about, there are some 38 sectors. There's 38 different councils which are talking about skill development of their own area. Like healthcare, it's a very important subject. But did I know about everything about healthcare? No, I can only know what was there in the media. So you've got a healthcare council. A healthcare council has industry experts for that particular sector. They decide, look, what are the job roles in healthcare? So whether it's nursing assistants or OT technicians or phlebotomists or quality control analysis in a lab or or general duty assistants, home health aid. There's so many different jobs which I didn't even know existed. But those people who are from that sector, they know exactly what they want. And we need to change our minds and our way of acquiring knowledge and skills to be able to serve that sector. So if there are requirements of a particular sector, especially in healthcare now, we have to focus on that. We don't have to just focus, I have to do an MBBS and MD and everybody wants to become a doctor. There's a whole field of paramedics. There's a job called the diabetes educator. And a diabetes educator does not require biology to be a major. You don't have to be a biology expert. Actually, you have to be a sociologist expert. You have to have the counseling ability. What does a diabetes educator do? A diabetes educator comes in between a patient and a doctor. So the patient, before he goes and sees the doctor, the diabetes educator comes in between and takes down your entire history of what are your lows, what are your highs, what kind of food you eat, when do you have, what kind of diet you have following, all of that. What is your exercise levels, etc. He or she just puts that in a piece of paper. So when the patient walks into the doctor's cabin, and usually doctors are so busy they can hardly give you a few minutes. One glance at that and knows exactly what is wrong with you or what needs to be done to make it right. He or she doesn't spend time in taking the whole history down, and the doctor's handwritings are not too good to look at. So diabetes educator can do all this. Now let's imagine the doctor is sitting somewhere in AIIMS in Delhi, one of the best hospitals in India, and you are sitting in let's say in Bhagalpur, and there is this patient in a village. As a diabetes educator, you just go there and get them to be able to give you that perform. And you take a WhatsApp of that particular paper that you write on that patient, and the doctor from Delhi can advise you. So that is the kind of skill that you need to provide. And so our villages and our rural environment, there's so many people who have to travel miles to get the nearest doctor. And here, but everybody seems to have a mobile phone now. So we've got mobile phones into the deep interiors of India. Then let's utilize that. Let's utilize the technology. Let's apply the skills to that technology and provide service to our fellow human beings and our fellow countrymen. That's why skill development is very important. Think in terms of skills, what is required in the industry, what is required around you. With COVID, what is it that you can do more? With GST, what more you can do? With agriculture, how can you apply technology to agriculture? So all these things are new fields that are coming up. We talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning and blockchain, all those things. But those are technologies. But how do you apply it? How do you apply artificial intelligence to agriculture? How can you predict in a plot of land, if the water content is a certain amount, how much of nutrients are required? What is the NPK value for that? And how in a particular area, when it will rain, how much will it rain? All that can be provided to you, to the farmer, on a mobile phone. And you needn't be anywhere near that place. So with the weather patterns and with the kind of information that's there at the rural level, you can provide that help and bring out the best amongst the farmers. By the way, farmers is the best entrepreneur that we have. He takes the most risks, and we need to provide him the reward because he feeds us. Thank you very much. And this is my last slide. I would now stop sharing the slide and I'm open to questions.
Thank you so much, sir. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका सर. इतने इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक पे आज के दिन में यूथ डे पे आपने इंफॉर्मेशन दिया. स्किलिंग की डिफरेंट टाइप की स्टैंडर्ड 1 से लेकर हायर स्टैंडर्ड तक के आपने डिफरेंशिएशन देके लोगों को समझाया. मैं पार्टिसिपेंट से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, पार्टिसिपेंट्स प्लीज आप कमेंट्स बॉक्स में क्वेश्चन क्वेरीज अपना कमेंट्स करें ताकि हम तक के उनको क्वेश्चन को रेज कर सकें. सर मैं एक क्वेश्चन आपसे पूछना चाहूंगा सर कि हमारे आसपास में इवन पूरे इंडिया में ये हमारी इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज बहुत सारी हो गई हैं, वहां से पास आउट बच्चे बहुत सारे निकल चुके हैं, लेकिन उनको रेगुलर एम्प्लॉयमेंट अदरवाइज एम्प्लॉयमेंट की बहुत कमियां हैं. तो इसके लिए गवर्नमेंट जो किस तरह से वर्क कर रही है, इवन इंडस्ट्री जो है वो क्या कर रही है, और साथ ही साथ वो कॉलेजेस या वो बच्चे को क्या करना चाहिए कि आगे जैसे ये स्थिति आई है कि टेक्निकल बंदे हैं लेकिन उतनी स्किलिंग नहीं हो पाई है, वो किसको अपने आप को अपग्रेड करें और एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट कर सके.
आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट इट्स वेरी सैड, आई एम आल्सो एन इंजीनियर, that the current crop of engineers are not found employable because all the education has been very theory oriented. So they have been shown a CNC machine and say, okay, this is how it works. But nobody's seen a CNC machine. Nobody's got their hands dirty on a CNC machine. It's, when the oil and the coolant flies at you, that's when you really get to know what the CNC machine is all about. Now, first is, of course, you try and find out in your own discipline of engineering, whether it's mechanical, chemical, etc., what excites you, whether it's... Now, the other problem that I'm seeing is most of the engineers are trying to go for IT roles. They're getting into coding, they're getting into some other kind of developer roles of the big 4 or 5 that are there, Infosys, Wipro, etc. They're losing their engineering, so-called manufacturing skills, and India needs manufacturing big time. I mean, India can really gain a lot from what China is losing, market share that is, and India can get into manufacturing big time. But that means you have to get your hands dirty. You have to start applying your engineering skills. Now, to apply the engineering skills, look at some of the job roles that are available on the NSDC website. They are short-term courses. They're not talking of 4 years BTech that you may have already had. Maybe in 6 months, maybe in 3 months, some of those job roles can be taken up by you. Let's say a CNC machine course itself. You can pick that up and start doing things on those. Robotics or something related to robotics. Something to looking at instrumentation and automation of manufacturing of a particular type. So whatever be your interest, have a look at those. And then go for those training courses because there are a lot of training providers of NSTC. And don't worry about which scheme will be there and all. Look, the government can do only up to a certain bit. Somewhere you have to put in your own money. And very frankly, when you put your own money, your interest will be there. If the government has to pay for everything, you will lose interest anyway. Because one day you like, next day you say, this is very boring. Kaun jata hai? Mere jeb ka thona paisa jata hai. But you have to apply your mind to that. And take up that. So the faster that you do that, the faster you look at manufacturing as a big field, where India can make a big difference, then you should go for it. Say, for example, I mean, now there's a very good scheme that's running with, it's called the TITP, Technical Intern Training Program, where India is supposed to send 3 lakh interns to Japan. It's called the TITP, and you may like to read about it on the net. Now, Japan needs skilled people from India, or not fully skilled, by the way. So there's nothing that you have to be perfect at that, and Japanese are very, very perfection oriented. They will train you, but you need to know something, and your BTech degree hopefully would get you that so-called something. You need to understand the Japanese language and culture. For that, you do a course, and then be ready to kind of stock it out in 3 years in Japan. and you can then come back to India because Japanese are going to open more and more manufacturing facilities in India. So you will be the first one to be trained, and you will be the first one to get those jobs. Plus, while you are in Japan, you're getting paid for it. Now, these are the things that you can look at. These are schemes which are already running. If you don't want to go to Japan, doesn't matter. There are other ways to look at how in India itself you can provide yourself useful, like electric vehicles. They are the new ones that are coming up. So what does it take to become a proficient engineer in the electrical vehicle field? So these are some of the things that you have to look for, and NSDC can provide you that extra bit of information as to where and when a particular course may be running in India, and how you need to apply for it, and what it takes to do the course.
घनश्याम दास गर्ग जी का एक प्रश्न है सर. Is there any designation system in skill areas such as doctor, engineer, etc.?
Well, there are no designations as such. I mean, the job role is your designation, very frankly. Designations come where there's a hierarchy. I mean, yeah, in India, everybody's so hell-bent on being called either a doctor, an engineer, or a CA, or I don't know, why only 3, 4, 5, or IAS, or PCS, or whatever it is. But look at it, look at photography. I mean, it's a skill. Remember that movie 3 Idiots? That person had to spend 4 years in engineering before he could convince his dad, hey, look, I actually wanted to become a photographer. And then he went on to become a photographer at Discovery, and he started making more money than he would ever had in an engineering field. So first, discover your passion. That's very important. I think the designation, leave that aside. When you become big, and if you are educated already as an engineer, then you should look at how do you create jobs for others. So start something for your own. Start giving jobs to other people, because the employment situation is not going to clear up sometime soon. No, it's going to take a lot of time. In the meantime, you have to find what is well suited to you. Spend that 1 year more. Try and get yourself perfected at some particular job role. Get that competency. And get that competency means you have to get your hands dirty. You have to work on practical skills. When I was in Tata Motors, I mean, we had learned everything about welding. There, they made me work for 7 days, nearly 10 hours a day in doing welding on the shop floor. I had never held a welding torch in my life. But there, with the grime and with the smell of all that fumes, etc., your eyes used to become so big by the end of the day. We had to go to the pharmacy. They used to put eye drops into our eyes so that our pupils could constrict. Because if you're trying to sleep with their eyes looking round, you couldn't sleep at night. That's when I first realized what it takes to become a welder. Not that I wanted to become a welder, but how do I take care of people who are working for me? We were told machining, we were told so all those things. It didn't matter, you look, I'm from IIT or something like that. Nothing. I mean, IIT or no IIT, doesn't matter. You have to learn the skill. And it doesn't mean that you have to learn the skill to be able to perfectly doing that. Well, it's possible also. If you want to just become a machinist, great. It's a great idea. But if you want to look at managing machinists, first you should know what a machinist faces. There are both ways you have to look at life together. And in Tata Motors, there were people who've been 20 years working with machines, and I could never ever get that same kind of knowledge as they had. They were so good. And that's why the company was making some of the best items that ever could come out. Tata Motors still continues to be the pride of India.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. नीलेश वाघमारे जी का एक प्रश्न है सर. How can we enhance skill in tourism and hospitality apart from IHM, Indian Institute of Hotel Management, and IITM, Indian Institute of Tourism Management?
हाँ जी, मैंने अभी जैसे बोला ना कि this is not about taking a degree in a full 2-3 year course and all. It is, if you want to get into food and beverages, then look at how to get those, they call me chef thing, or you look at how you can do something very specific to the industry. You want to be a mail steward, then look at that as a job role. again, you go to the health, look, for you especially, I'm giving you as an example, there's a tourism and hospitality sector skill council, THSSC, if you can look at, on the website. Go to the website and see what all kind of job roles are there in the travel and hospitality industry. You'll be amazed. And not all the job roles are being taught at these institutes that you mentioned. There are various training providers which provide you that. And best again, you have to get and start working in a hotel or a smaller hotel, whichever it may be, and get that experience of how to deal with the customer and how to provide service to various customers or guests, as you call them. So the idea there is, again, go back to the industry sector skill council and get that information from there. I am not an expert in travel and hospitality, but that will be the approach that I will take. I don't have the information, so let me go to the people who have the information, who are the experts. And there I find what suits me best. What am I qualified for? And finally, try and take those, not that the one that give you money. Try and take up those job roles which you're passionate about. You know, you think, yes, look, if cooking is passion, then go for the cooking role. Don't look for the front office versus back office or the male steward, etc. If cooking is your passion, then go for it. You know, the reason, there was once upon a time cooking was not looked at as a very, let's say, respectable profession. Then came MasterChef. What happened with MasterChef? Suddenly, you don't look at the maid or the cooking person at home or whoever is cooking at home. You don't even bother to look at, what kind of skills do you have? You just enjoy the food and go away. But if you have to make that food yourself, you see what kind of challenges it brings in. And look at India. The top 3 chefs of India are all males. So it is not a woman-oriented job. It's not a woman-oriented profession. The top 3 guys are males. So suddenly, from a cook to a chef, the moment you say chef, and you see the world's highest paid chef is an Indian, Sanjeev Kapoor. So who said cooking doesn't have respect? So NSCC में हमने एक अभियान चलाया था, हुनर है तो कदर है. So when you have skills, you have respect. I think that's what you should be aiming for. You have skills, you have respect. It doesn't matter what designation, it doesn't matter what industry. You have to have skills, and that's going to take you very far.
संतोष प्राप्तर जी का एक प्रश्न है सर. Whether ordinary graduates have skill development necessary?
Yes, very much. It is the most important thing that you should look at. Being a graduate alone, as I mentioned earlier, 75% of graduates are not employable. What does employable mean? That you do not have the skills which can get you a job. And the job, we are not talking of government jobs, we're talking of private sector jobs. Especially in private sector, they are looking, look, what can you do for me? And I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you're a commerce graduate, correct? And there's this small supermarket or mini market with some 15, 20 people working. And the Sethji says, I want to look at somebody who can manage all my finances. So as a graduate, you go in and he says, okay, what can you do for me? That's the question in an interview. What can you do for me? Sir, I'm a commerce graduate. Okay, what can you do for me? Sir, I'm done BCom. I understand. Okay, fine. But what can you do for me? Sir, I can do your graph, debit, credits, and I can do that. So, वो तो एक बार होता है. और क्या कर सकते हो? Now, compare this to a person who's 10th pass. He says, sir, I know Tally software. I can do your cash in, cash outs. I can do your inventorizing. I can do your budgeting and control. I can churn out MIS reports to know exactly what is happening in your shop. Who gets hired? Because I'm not saying the 10th person gets hired because he's from 10th, but he has the skills. So the graduate also needs to have that skills to be able to contribute to the employer that is going to hire him.
कोमुद कुमारी सिंह मैम का एक प्रश्न है सर, स्पेसिफिक पर्सनल क्वेश्चन है उनके. I did MA in economics in Hindi entity and B.Ed as a teacher. I am satisfied with my job, but I need money for my family. So can you me advise?
देखिए, आप बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, आप टीचर तो बन ही गए, लेकिन इस समय आपको टीचिंग में आप देखिए there are these online sessions that you can do. So teaching is not just about a classroom and 30, 40, 50 people sitting there every day coming, taking lectures and marking yes or no in terms of attendance. There are lots of education portals that have come in. EdTech is one of the biggest industry that has prospered in COVID era. So whether it's Upgrad or UNA Academy or how many other online education thing has come in. And forget that, I mean, you can do online tutoring for all you know, and the people who you are giving tuitions to or you're tutoring needn't be from the same village or same area, or they can be sitting on the other part of India, wherever you are compared to where your students can come from. So there's so many different ways you can engage, like the way we are talking today on Google Meet. You can start a Google Meet session and say, okay, look, this is my expertise. I can help you in understanding your subject better and pay for it. Of course, if you're good, people will pay for it. Why not?
So, Twinder Singh ji ka ek prashn hai, sir. What is the difference between quality and quantity qualification?
Quantity and quality qualification. Well, quantity qualification is gathering degrees. You can become, how many bachelor degrees, how many masters, and how many MPhils, and how many PhDs. Whereas quality education would be doing something which is required in the market, like say today healthcare is required. Even filing of GST returns is a quality education right now because people are looking for it. For that matter, even composing music can be a very good idea. And people become DJs overnight and they earn more money than other people. That's a skill, by the way. So it depends on what your passion is. So quality education would be something matching your passion. Because when something matches your passion, your interest, that's when you get perfection out of it. And that perfection is going to get you more money than providing quantity education of how many degrees you've gathered on the way.
सर, मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि स्पेशली एनएसडीसी की वेबसाइट में एवं ऑनलाइन बहुत सारी प्रोग्राम्स है, तो उसके बारे में हमारे ऑडियंस जो है वो जरूर जानना चाहेंगे सर. तो थोड़ा एनएसडीसी की वेबसाइट में जो ऑनलाइन प्रोग्राम्स या फिर ऑफलाइन भी प्रोग्राम नियर में देते हैं, उसको किस प्रकार से हम जो है उसको एक्वायर कर सकते हैं और अपनी स्किल को बढ़ावा दे सकते हैं, इस पे थोड़ा सा आप रोशनी डाल के ये वेबिनार का हम समापन करेंगे.
तो nsdcindia.org is your main website. उसमें आप क्वालिटी स्टैंडर्ड्स वगैरह देखेंगे तो ये आपको ये सारी वेबसाइट्स मिल जाएंगी जहाँ पे ये 3,500 जॉब रोल्स देखें. वहाँ पे एक उनका स्मार्ट पोर्टल भी है. वहाँ पे कुछ कोर्सेज फ्री हैं और कुछ बड़े नॉमिनल पैसे में हैं. तो कौन सा कोर्स आप करना चाहेंगे, जो फ्री है वो तो कर ही लीजिए. और उसमें जैसे डिजिटल लिटरेसी है, फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी है, ये सब तो आप सीख ही लीजिए कम से कम, और आसपास वालों को भी सिखाइए. हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर जी ने भी कहा है कि सबको डिजिटल एंड फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी तो आनी ही चाहिए कम से कम, है ना. अपना PNL बैठ के घर में बनाना ही चाहिए. अगर आप कुछ बेचना चाहें तो उसकी प्राइसिंग कैसे करनी है, क्या करनी है, वो तो तुम्हें आना चाहिए ना. और डिजिटल लिटरेसी ऑल्सो, you should know how to work on the computer, you should know how to work on your mobile and how you make a difference in the digital world also. So those are the courses that are there. And in addition to that, उनका एक contact us, एक उनका वो है place where training providers की बात होती है. तो आप कौन से एरिया में हैं, वहाँ पे कौन से ट्रेनिंग प्रोवाइडर्स हैं, या फिर दूसरी तरह से देखना चाहें कि आपको एक पर्टिकुलर टाइप ऑफ कोर्स करना चाहते हैं तो उसके लिए कहाँ ट्रेनिंग हो रही है. मे बी आपके एरिया में नहीं हो रही हो, आज से आपके यहाँ से 50 किलोमीटर दूर या 500 किलोमीटर दूर पर कोई ट्रेनिंग हो रही हो, उसके बारे में फिर उनको आप, उनके फ़ोन नंबर्स हैं तो आप उनको रिंग करके पूछ सकते हैं कि सर आपका कोर्स कब शुरू हो रहा है, मैं आना चाहता हूँ. तो इस तरह की चीज़ें वहाँ पे, सारी चीज़ वहाँ पे एक्सप्लेन है. और अगर ये सब नहीं समझ में आ रहा है तो उनका कॉन्टैक्ट अस पे आप जाके उनको लिखिए, अपना एक नोट भेजिए, तो वो लोग रिप्लाई ज़रूर करेंगे कि भाई मैं यहाँ पे हूँ, इस तरह से मुझे कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन की ज़रूरत है, आप मुझे प्लीज़ हेल्प करके कीजिए. So from the website itself, you can draw a lot of information for yourself.
थैंक यू सो मच सर, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर. क्योंकि आज के इस समय पे स्किलिंग जो है बहुत महत्वपूर्ण अपना योगदान रहा. जैसे कि हमने फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन में डिस्कस किया, बहुत सारे लोग डिग्री डिप्लोमा लेके तो हैं बट उनके लिए एम्प्लॉयमेंट नहीं है. तो जब तक कि अपनी स्किल्स को हम अपग्रेड नहीं करेंगे तब तक के एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट नहीं हो पाएगी और एम्प्लॉयमेंट हमें नहीं मिल पाएगी. तो आज ने आप जो अपने डिटेल में ब्रीफ में स्किल को बढ़ाने के लिए बहुत सारी टिप्स भी दिए और कहाँ से उसको मोबिलाइज कर सकते हैं, कहाँ से हम गिर सकते हैं, उसके बारे में आपने इंफॉर्मेशन भी दिया. तो इसके लिए मैं अभाव फाउंडेशन की ओर से और हमारे सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स की ओर से आपका धन्यवाद करूंगा सर. और चाहूंगा कि जो मैं ऑडियंस से चाहूंगा भी कि आपको जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन मिली है वो अपने फ्रेंड्स तक, फैमिली तक और सोसाइटी तक जरूर पहुंचाएं और ज्यादा से ज्यादा बच्चों को स्किल करने के लिए मोटिवेट करें. इन्हीं आशाओं के साथ सर मैं आपका पुनः धन्यवाद करूंगा. थैंक यू सो मच सर.
नमस्ते. थैंक यू एवरीबॉडी. ऑल द बेस्ट.